The two greatest events of my life were, the two greatest things that I've done is that I accepted Srila Prabhupada as my spiritual master, and I've never left. It's the two best decisions. And when you accept someone, when you become a disciple of someone who's very pure, it transforms your life. So he asked us to share Krishna consciousness, and I have the fortune of doing it. In countries around the world, many countries. I live in America. And I have done many services for Prabhupada, and my favorite service is to teach and sing. So that's what I'm doing tonight. Singing and teaching. So, another question. Thank you. We'll just chant a little bit and then we can start. What's the topic? Do you have the topic or are you going to leave it?
I don't know if I don't have a topic, but you can talk more. Yes, I thought myself maybe you can speak about things like compassion and forgiveness and all these nice. Yes, the good things like yeah.
Wow.
You give so many workshops and even the power of prayers. But forgiveness is a very nice topic.
We did a workshop in Denmark on prayer many years ago.
Yes, I was there.
That's very nice.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Have another harmonium.
No, it might be my beat then.
It's my harmonium, I think
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare One more time, with a little more love. Chant like you mean it. Together. Prayer, compassion, and forgiveness. All three or one of each? Let's see what happens. Nakam karoti vacharam bhuram Edigirim nakapa tamaham vande siguru dinatarinam Vanchakalpa Trudasya Kripasandhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Do you know there was a time before mobile phones, do you know? People actually existed then. It's amazing that we could even exist, isn't it? When I was 8 years old, I would go out in the morning on my bike, and I'd come back at like 6 at night. My parents had no idea where I went. No phone. So now I'm still... You know, when we talk about compassion and forgiveness, I can't help but think about self-compassion and self-forgiveness. There was a Buddhist teacher who said, if compassion is only given to others and not to oneself, your compassion is not complete. If we say, I want to be compassionate to everyone, that would include ourselves. If I want to forgive everyone, that would include ourselves, wouldn't it? You're moving us to the balcony?
No, the kids.
So, hear them screaming from the balcony instead of from the... Yeah. So it's often said, and many people realize that you can't give to others what you don't have yourself. But as someone who's taught forgiveness and compassion and prayer, you realize that it works both ways. What you give to yourself, you can give to others, and what you give to others, you give back to yourself. So there's a saying that if you light up another's path, your path will also be lit up. Or you cannot light another's path without your path being lit up. So, in the process of forgiving another person, we're the ones who benefits the most.
Forgive yourself.
If you forgive another person, you benefit the most. Of course, if you forgive yourself, you benefit. But, well, some people they don't need to forgive anybody but themselves. But if you need to forgive another person, by forgiving them, you actually bless yourself. It's an act of compassion. As well as an act of compassion for them, it's an act of compassion for yourself. Because if we lack compassion, if we lack forgiveness, it holds us down. If we try to hurt another person, it hurts us more than it hurts them. They have this saying in India, if you kill a skunk, your hand will smell. Skunk is the animals that smell. You don't have skunks in this country?
Yeah.
You have.
But not that much.
So, when you you kill a skunk, you'll smell. You harm another person, it will harm you. It will come back. And if you help another person, it will help you. So, I'll give you an example. Sometimes someone will say, this person doesn't deserve my forgiveness. Have you said that? They're so bad, or whatever you think of them, they're so bad they don't deserve my forgiveness. That would be wrong to forgive them. Because they're just going to do it again, and they've done it so many times. So they don't deserve my forgiveness, so I don't give it. And by not giving it, that means I hold on to resentment or hold on to something negative towards them, because I don't want to give them my forgiveness. So, this is my thought on that. They may not deserve your forgiveness, but you deserve your forgiveness. You deserve to give them forgiveness, because by giving them forgiveness, you remove the resentment from your heart that is contaminating you and pulling you down. It's a different way. So it's the act of letting them go is an act that lets your heart become free of the contaminant called resentment. So you bless yourself even more than you bless them. That's a thought you can meditate on. For those who know Bhagavad Gita, that they understand that anything in your heart, such as hatred, resentment, is of the lowest material, most contaminated state of consciousness. So, for example, let's say we were going to make a chart of the levels of consciousness from lowest to highest, or from highest to low. Let's start with high. Let's start at high. What would be on the top, or what would be near the top of highest levels of consciousness? No, for us, qualities.
Krishna
Our
consciousness.
consciousness, what would be the highest?
quality.
Treating everyone same. Treating everyone.
Surrender.
What was the question? What is the highest quality?
We're highest state of consciousness.
The highest stage of consciousness.
We're starting at the highest. Some humility.
Humility, tolerance,
Treating everyone equally.
no false ego.
Yeah. Ecstasy. Love of God. Yeah.
Always,
Okay.
always thinking of Krishna.
Yeah. What would be at the bottom?
Oh,
Oh, the opposite.
envy,
Envy. What else?
Hatred.
Hatred. Anger.
greed.
Greed. Okay.
Desires.
So, if we're resentful, where are we on that continuum? You have all your reasons to be resentful. We all do, otherwise we wouldn't be. But where are you on that continuum in terms of the state of consciousness? But, so wouldn't that be the greatest blessing to yourself to let it go and be forgiving, and then you'd be on the highest state of consciousness, higher state. Of course, if we want to come closer to God, closer to Krishna, what would be closer, forgiveness or resentment? Easy question. Well, we kind of already answered it. So if we're going up, we could say those higher states of consciousness are closer to Krishna, and the lower states are further away. Sometimes we feel justified in our resentment. It's understandable. But when looked at from this position, holding on to that means we're keeping ourselves in a lower state of consciousness, further away from Krishna, and also it causes us to suffer. So anything that we hold on to, either good or bad, will either bless ourselves or cause ourselves to suffer. You know what it's like when you're angry. You know what it's like when you're envious. You know what it's like when you have hatred in your heart. Who is suffering? We are suffering from it. And if we can give that up, it's like a great blessing to ourselves. It's like a great toxic substance that's just left our body. In fact, when I have taught workshops on forgiveness, I have seen, because I'm the teacher and I'm looking at the students, I've seen the transformation physically in the bodies of the students when they finally forgive, because in the course there's a system where they can officially let it go, just like whatever they want to let go, they can let go of it in the class, and everybody knows when they let go of it. And I can see physical difference in the body. It's much lighter. When they're holding on to resentment, the body's darker when they let it go. It's lighter, and lighter both ways. Lighter, and weight lighter. And I can see it. Sometimes it's dramatic, like extremely dramatic. You know, light, like they're jumping around, light, and big smiles, and effulgence, like once they let it go. So it's, we may look at these things like envy and hatred and jealousy and resentment as characteristics, but they're energies within the body, and I could see them like that. And just to show you how real those energies are, maybe you know this, but there's been lots of research in connection between resentment and cancer. About 20 years ago, there wasn't so much. About 10, 12 years ago, 15, there's lots of research on disease and states of consciousness, and there's a direct connection there. So we're holding on to something that's polluting. It's in our mind, it's in our heart, it's an energy, a frequency, and it's polluting the whole body, including us spiritually. So we are the ones who suffer the most. So any anger you have, anything, you're suffering from it. Even if you justify it, but what's the point of justifying it? Because you're the one who's going to suffer. So there's a beautiful definition of forgiveness, and it'll help us. It'll just help us understand this. It goes something like this: being kind to someone who doesn't deserve your kindness. But being kind to someone who actually deserves your anger because of what they did. That's what it is. So, for the logical mind, and for most people who are not on the spiritual path, and even some who are on the spiritual path, whose logical mind takes over, the natural thinking logically is, why would I be kind to someone who's unkind to me? Why would I be compassionate about someone who hurt me, or maybe ruined my life in some way? So the logical mind, the material mind says, no, that's wrong. Don't let people take advantage of you. Why would you give kindness back to hurt? But if you study any spiritual path, you will see that's exactly what you do. You always respond to everything with compassion, forgiveness, understanding, etc. Now, it doesn't mean materially, you go invite someone who just tried to kill you to live in your apartment. But you don't hold on to resentment, hatred, anger for that person. Even if you have to go take them to court just to protect yourself, it's not going to spite or resentment or anger, any of that. So that's what it means to be on the spiritual path. And a lot of times we don't realize that. Because a lot of people think spiritual path means you just do something, like you do your chanting every day, or you do an arti every day, you do some kind of ritual, and then you're spiritual. I would say it's a little more, means you're a little more religious. Because you can be very religious and not spiritual at all. You can be very religious and hate everybody in your neighborhood. Right? You know that saying? We don't have enough religion to love one another, but we have enough religion to hate one another. Something like that. Have you heard that before? How does that go? Yeah, something like that. We don't have enough religion to hate one another, but to love one another, but we have enough to hate one another. You know what I'm saying? So, if we understand this, then compassion, forgiveness, and so forth, it just becomes natural. That's just what we do. And what is most common, if we look at our lives, we're usually responding to what's going on in our life, what's going on around us, responding how people treat us. And so you generally don't find people blessing others who are hurting them. That you find, like Jesus Christ and Thakur Haridas, like you find that but the reason that is because that's all they do. They just bless. It's irrelevant how they're treated. Their heart is full of compassion, so they bless. And it doesn't matter how they're treated. That's right. So Jesus is an example. One of the best examples, right? He was blessing those who were trying to kill him. In our books, we have many stories like that of great devotees who were blessing people who tried to kill them. It's like inconceivable. And some people would think, this person's stupid. Why would he do that? He should retaliate. But because of the level of consciousness they're in, they don't retaliate. It doesn't matter what's done to them. They're always blessing, they're always praying for others. They're always concerned about the well-being of others. That's their heart, that's their mission. So that's what we're trying to come to. And so forgiving, being compassionate is just what we're supposed to do when we're on the spiritual path. And even if we don't have forgiveness and we don't have compassion, still what we're supposed to do, because that's how you develop it. And there's a sad statistic, maybe you've done this. I don't know if it's international or just in America, but it probably doesn't matter because it is only America, it's probably similar everywhere. They found when they studied religions or religious movements, and I don't know how they did this, but there was some test where they were testing the level of compassion of people. So they tested religious people who professed to be religious. They tested, I guess there were some answer questions or something. And they tested people who did not profess to be religious. And the most compassionate people, aside from 10% of the religious people, the non-religious people were more compassionate in general. It's really interesting, isn't it? So you can kind of understand what that means. They didn't, somehow I guess they had the doctrines and the theology and the practices, and they didn't focus on the more essentials. And so that can easily happen. Now, from my own experience, when you know, it said like to what is it? Something to err is human, to forgive is divine. You've heard that? Yeah. But in my own experience, the forgiveness makes you divine. It's like you have to elevate your consciousness to be able to do it. Paradox. 100% paradox. Believe me, it is, and I can back that up with so many verses and stories and quotes. It's important to understand. Now, you may have your reasons not to, but just please understand that is not what it means to be Krishna conscious or to be on the spiritual path by any means. I'll tell you one more thing and then we have a little discussion. It's just so interesting. And this is all things, these are things that I did not read in books. Maybe it was obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me in the beginning, but I learned this from teaching forgiveness, doing workshops on forgiveness. And something happens to us and we react with resentment. And so if I ask you what happened, you will tell me the story. And after you tell me the story you tell me is the cause of your resentment, because the story is how you see it. Does that make sense? Like this is what happened. And so nobody really wants to carry resentment, but we have a story which is fostering resentment, or whatever your story is, it's fostering something. You may have a story that's fostering a lack of compassion, or whatever, a lack of honesty for someone. Well, they cheated me, so I'm not going to be honest, whatever. And so what happens in the course of the workshop, we go through a series of processes to alter the way you see the story. And so what happened doesn't change, obviously. It's over, it's history. But what changes in the course of the workshop is how you see what happened. Your story about speak what they saw. And it's always different than your story, because God sees things differently. And the story is usually something around like, you were triggered, this is your coping mechanism, anger is your coping mechanism, you should have showed them compassion, but instead you showed anger. Or you actually hurt them and they were just responding to the hurt, you don't even realize you hurt them and they were responding to it. Or I gave you an opportunity to grow and you didn't take it. You sank to the bottom of anger and resentment when this was an opportunity to grow, to see things differently. I was actually pushing you, there was a lesson. Or in some, when you speak as God, you see it in some different way than you normally see it, which is obviously makes it easy to let it go. So, I did this to you because I wanted to teach you something. Oh, really? Just see how much better your life would be if you learned the lesson. And it totally transforms the story. And now you leave with a new story. And that's actually all that happened, was the story changed. So, I as a teacher, I get to see that. Because the old story goes, they tear up their old story, and then they have a new story. And the new story forgiveness, the old story fostered resentment. And then I thought, this is so beautiful. Because really, anything in your life that you want to change, just rewrite the script. And you might say, but it seems like this is factually how it happened. That's how you're looking at it. It's subjective. There's actually very little objectivity, as everything's filtered subjectively through our consciousness. This is how it happened. This person was nasty. No, rewrite another story. They have a difficult life. They have difficult situations. I need to understand that as in the story. And so the reaction's different now. Nothing changed. The way they treated you is the same. But your understanding of the whole backstory is different. And therefore your reaction's different. So after realizing that, I thought, why would you ever want a story that's degrading you? It doesn't make any sense, but we do. We have so many stories that are harmful. I don't like this person, I don't like this situation. And all those stories are doing are just we're harming ourselves with those stories. And you can actually change them. And if you think about it, those of you who read Bhagavad Gita, when you read Bhagavad Gita, it changed your story on life. You're looking at things differently. Completely different like that. I'm not temporary, I'm eternal. That changed the game completely, didn't it? I don't die, the body just dies. These people are, I don't have enemies, friends, everyone's spirit soul. It's, it changed. It's nothing in the world changed, it's just the way you saw it change. And therefore your experience of it changed. Right? God is everywhere. Well, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to live. So that's really one of the great lessons, I think. If you have a problem, all you need to do is rewrite the story that's fostering the problem. You might think that's difficult to do, or the reality is this, but if you try to rewrite the story, you'll get an inspiration. I'll tell you one story, because I was a partner for one person when she was playing Krishna, and her issue was with her father. Her father was dying when she was 12 years old. And while her father was dying, or maybe a year before he was dying, he was still married, but he had a girlfriend. And as a 12-year-old girl, that shattered her. She just couldn't deal with it. And she developed an extreme amount of resentment for him. And when she did the exercise, she was probably in her early 50s. So, we're talking like 38 years later. She's been holding this on in her heart for 38 years. And now she's confronting it. And she has to see it in a different way, as if she's Krishna. She has to think, how does God see this? And so she went back and looked at her life, and she realized that event was pivotal. It was a pivotal event in her life, especially her spiritual life, because she was so upset about it. She was so frustrated and depressed. She prayed to God and said, please help me. I can't deal with this. I need to make sense of this. I need to know how to deal with it. And events transpired where Krishna came into her life as a result of that event. And she realized without that happening, she would have never come to Krishna consciousness. And Krishna has given her such a beautiful family now. That family, that didn't work out well, but Krishna gave her a really beautiful family. And so I was the one to listen to the story, so that I could just I was listening, I go, wow. Because this was like the first time she ever thought like this. So I could see she's like going through and I'm like, yeah, this was actually good. 38 years of holding pain, this was really good. This was like the pivotal point of my life for turning to spiritual life, and then everything happened well. So if you try to reframe your story, you'll be able to do it. And so anytime you have a difficulty, with this person, this situation, see if you can reframe it in a positive way. What's the lesson? Why did this happen? How is it good? There's a question, it's kind of a coaching question, but it's an interesting question. When something bad happens, you ask yourself, what's good about this? Because all you can think about is what is bad about it. So you're reframing the story by starting to think in a way your mind would not naturally think, because all I'm thinking about is what's wrong, right? This is bad. And then you ask yourself what's good, and you have to try to figure out what's good about it. You know, some lesson, or realizing like I make this mistake all the time and I never noticed it before, whatever it is. So that's an interesting question. Something bad happens, it's like, spin it around, what's good about it? Wow, how interesting. So why don't I have some questions, some discussions? Something. Yes.
When people are scared, are really scared, it can make them act on a way they really didn't want it, because the consequences are reared out. But the fact that they are so scared that they can't see the consequences of what they are doing, it's not they are doing things because they are bad, I try to tell, but because they are scared. And it gives, I don't know, well, there's some question in this. It's not really a question, but I ask you how you see the point of being scared. Because I notice people, they don't oversee the whole situation, but in their mind they figure something they are scared of, and that makes them react on an awful, terrible way.
Mm-hmm.
And when they find out that the reason they were scared for didn't really exist, so they were 10 years later sometimes.
Yeah. I can't say everything about fear, but
Fair, that's the word, yes.
I can say that generally my advice in these situations is that to work on the problem of fear now, when you're not afraid, when you're in normal consciousness, and like introspect, why do I become fearful? And like you said, usually you realize those fears are not real. They're illusory. And they're fears that I'll be in a situation which will be uncomfortable, or I won't be able to deal with, or I'll fail. So what, you fail? It's not such a good thing. So it's better to work on anything we need to work on. It's always better to work on it when we're not in the environment that's causing the problem, so that when we are in the environment that causes the problem, we've worked on it in a way that now we won't become fearful, because we understand where our fears are coming from, and why we're fearful, and what fear is, and the illusory nature of it, and etc. So, but when you're in an environment that could cause you to be fearful, and you haven't really processed it in your own heart and mind, and you'll always give into it. So that's my general advice for any problem. People often say, well, what do I do when I get angry? And so I give the same answer. It's like it's too late. Isn't it better that you work on your anger so you don't get angry, rather than ask the question, what do I do when I get angry? It's like a boxer saying, what do I do when I get knocked out?
Is it always bad to get angry? Is it always bad to get angry?
Not always, but often.
Sometimes imagine you won't get angry, it stays inside. Imagine we have a quarrel and then it's finished business.
Yeah, but you can process it so that anger won't come up. That's my point.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't want to hold anger inside, but my point was why you're getting angry in the first place.
When someone violates your boundaries?
Yeah, but there's anger which can be positive and anger which can be negative. So I'm not talking about anything positive here. I'm talking about things that ways we react which we would not want to react.
Maybe out of jealousy that somebody's afraid, you know, the other does better, and I don't know, maybe in such a, that is, I think, resentment or.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if there's something, there can be righteous anger, there can be,
Yeah.
positive sides. But I'm saying, if there's anger that you don't want, and it's like you're saying, how do you deal with fear?
Yeah.
Maybe fear is good in some cases, because you're not afraid to jump off the building. Yeah, that's bad. But I was assuming the question was fear that is unwanted, how to deal with unwanted fear. And I would say, what's the cause of the fear? Because once you're in a situation, you can't deal with it, because you haven't dealt with it before. And then I gave the example, like with anger, sometimes people ask, how do I deal with anger? And I say, before you have the anger, it's how you deal with it. Once you have it, it's too late to deal with. I mean, you can count to 10 and whatever, and apologize to other people you've hurt. But it's better to understand what's causing it. Like so many things that we, right? You could say everything that we do that we don't want to do has a cause, and we can heal that cause so we don't do it. You ever say something you didn't mean to say? It's like, I wish I didn't say it. I wish I didn't do it. Like, why did I do that? There's a reason.
Do you, excuse me.
Yes.
Can you always find out why you get angry? I must
Yeah, you
admit
can.
that sometimes I'm usually very calm, but sometimes I really feel inside
Yeah.
it's not something slowly boiling,
Yes.
boiling more. Even when I don't really can point out what it exactly is. It's horrible, but it happens.
You might need to discuss it with somebody. Talk about it. Talk about it.
No.
You don't have to. You can talk to a friend. Other times, just by talking, you'll figure it out.
I would never think about it. It's now you mention it.
Yeah.
Otherwise it doesn't.
Talking, I mean, a lot of therapy is just talking. And all that happens when you talk is you let Krishna within you, inside of you.
Sometimes
you.
afterwards I figure out what was the reason, not before.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Well, yeah, that may be, but at least, but if you want to figure out, if you want to figure it out, that's your best qualification. Because a lot of people don't want to, don't care. Some people don't even notice their bad qualities. So why would they want to correct themselves? They don't even though they're exhibiting something that they should correct, they don't acknowledge that there's anything wrong. So if you acknowledge something's wrong and you want to correct yourself, you're pretty much like 85% already there, and then you start thinking. I do a lot of workshops and we discuss problems, and I ask people, why do you think this exists? And people just start thinking about it, and they usually get it. But often we just don't address it. Or we think we can address it or whatever, but once you're in the right environment and you address it, you'd be surprised. Sometimes it's kind of obvious, like this is what's causing it.
Sometimes there's a body language which is not spoken, but you just see it by the way the person reacts without words.
Yes.
It can cause your anger.
Yeah. But the person, I just heard a yesterday, I heard a Russian saying, don't blame the mirror if you're ugly. So if someone's body language is triggering you, the problem is not them. There's something in there. There has to be something in there that gets triggered. And so the natural question is, why did this upset me? Because he was standing next to me and he's not upset, and the person did the same thing to him. So we want to put it together. So, sometimes someone upsets us and we say, you make me angry, right? But in a sober state of mind, we understand that I have a lot of anger inside. If I didn't have that anger, how could they trigger something that's not inside of me? Like we're talking like sometimes someone does something that would trigger a person's anger, but the person is like very nice to them. Have you ever seen that? It's like, why are you nice to them? Look at what they just did to you. because they weren't triggered by the person.
But then, as I was here to talk about reincarnation, sometimes you might meet someone you have in another time, perhaps had some situation which can be triggered without being conscious.
Yeah, that may be true. But I think it's the same question is there. Why? Why am I getting triggered? And is there something that I can do? And I would say there's always something we can do because Krishna's given us free will. So it may be more difficult for one person, maybe longer for somebody, but that's what life's about, purification. So because otherwise, if we don't do anything, then we're always going to react the same way. And you don't want to spend your whole life with a problem that you could have healed if you just worked on it and admitted that I have it. Stop blaming the mirror. I don't look good. Stop blaming the mirror, and do something to look beautiful.
It's so true what you're saying, Maharaj. Of course, everything is true what you're saying. But so it's really, I always have so many times I've had the experience. I guess a lot of you as well. That you have a conflict with somebody, there's something going on between me and somebody all the time, it's always the same person, and then you start to get angry, hate the person, avoid the person, so many things you're doing. But actually, the nice thing is we have to see it as a gift from Krishna. But you can think about, as Krishna Kumari told me this, my daughter told me this, yes, years ago, when I was in this movement 1 year, I was just criticizing everybody. Yes, I said, oh my God, I thought I'm in a holy family, but they're all crazier than my job, than a good person than a job. Then she told me, Mommy, why you have to ask yourself, wonder why is this happening to me and not to him and to her? Why is it always happening to me? And then don't think about, and then just think about, why is Krishna doing this to me? He wants the best for me. So, what's in for me? What's the lesson he wants me to learn? And it's so true because when I did that, and don't think about the other one. That's his or her responsibility, and that's his or her relationship with Krishna. But only what Krishna is doing is every time, what's in for me? And really, you will realize your shortcomings because I happen to realize that sometimes I'm too much result-oriented. So I think about I have to slow the process. This is another person with another nature, with another character, and we're not the same. And it helps a lot. Or I have no patience enough. That's why. And you start to learn so much about yourself, and then you realize these are all gifts from Krishna to purify yourself.
Opportunities to learn.
Exactly. Just for purification.
Yeah. We were in class last night. We were mentioning that, in a sense, everything that happens to us is an opportunity to be better, to learn.
Yes.
If you're in that frame, if you're in that consciousness. Otherwise, you could learn nothing.
Yeah.
You could have a million opportunities and think, I'm perfect, I didn't do anything wrong.
You just keep entangling yourself otherwise.
I think, ego can be very big and it can be difficult to admit a fault. But it's really a great injustice to ourselves if there is a fault not to admit it. And another injustice not to deal with it. For many of us, the problems we have are difficult and we don't face them because we don't know how to solve them, or we don't face them because it's uncomfortable. And it's easier just to pretend they don't exist. Or just think maybe they'll go away, or I'll deal with it tomorrow. And tomorrow doesn't come. Well, tomorrow comes, but we just put it off because we don't want to deal with it. Yes.
But I can understand if you're not a devotee, because we in this devotional service, like in the nectar of devotion, we understand what characteristics we should have to purify ourselves for happiness. But I can understand in the material world, they are preaching and teaching like, you shouldn't let somebody hurt you and you shouldn't forgive them easy. So this is a total opposite, and you can actually see like people who are naturally in a bad surrounding, and they intend to forgive so easy, it can feel like a curse. But when you come to devotional life, he has a tendency to forgive very easy. It's actually very, very good and very blissful to experience. But it also depends on what kind of surrounding you have. I think that nurtures some of the.
Well, I could give you a report from the view of the teacher.
Yeah.
That if you're practicing spiritual life and you're a devotee, you're generally more in a mood of self-improvement, just to start with. And through all the devotional processes, your heart tends to be a little more open and softer. And so when it comes time to forgive, it's usually a little easier. That's what I've seen. I've seen with people who are not so spiritual, sometimes they go through all the processes, but it's just like their heart, it just won't open.
Yeah.
And so what I see from the view of the teacher is that here's the heart. You say the heart's like a lotus, and this resentment's inside, and it's just closed. And we say, let it go, and we say no. Just let it out, it'll be better to say no. But a devotee, their hearts are like already pretty open, so just open a little more and just drop it. And so, if you're on the spiritual path, it's usually like most of the work's already done, and then you just let it go. But if you're not there, you got to get that heart open enough just to acknowledge that it's good. It's something I should do. There are a lot of people that understand the importance of forgiving, but not everyone. They feel like, well, you're being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
You don't have to be taken advantage of. You can create boundaries and still forgive.
Yeah.
But the resentment that's in your heart is contaminating you. So I create boundaries. Okay, I'm not going to allow you to hurt me, but I'm not going to spend the rest of my life hating you. Because how spiritual is hating somebody? Even if you have a reason to hate them, you don't really have a reason. You have a reason maybe not to want to see them because they tried to kill you and make sure they're in jail so they won't try to kill you again.
It's a good reason to surrender to Krishna even stronger.
Yeah.
So.
And then we're asked about praying. Well, when we need help, we pray. And so if we're having difficulty letting go of our anger, letting go of resentment, whatever, sometimes you just pray. That's like, maybe you don't have to figure it out, you just pray and Krishna takes it away. That's also possible.
Sometimes you might disappoint a person who tries to hurt you, when you don't show to be hurt.
Yeah.
The other one might be disappointed.
Yeah, sometimes they say, that's the best way to get back at them. Be nice to them. And they'll get frustrated. Why you're not, when you're a kid and your friend calls you something, or maybe it doesn't happen so much with girls, but with boys. Your friend calls you some nasty name and you don't get upset and they're frustrated because they want you to cry and feel bad. So it's like your best weapon was to not get upset.
Yeah, exactly. One last question. What is how you be talking about forgiving, or what about asking for forgiveness?
Yeah.
How's the relation? Is it the same effect?
No, to make it
The last question was
Last question, yes. And then if you ask somebody, can you forgive me? And if that person says, no, no way.
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
What happens? You go to hell for 1,000 years.
I think so.
It's a long time.
At least it's not eternal. Our scriptures say any time we hurt someone, offend someone, anytime we offend the holy name by not chanting properly. We offend the deity by not worshiping properly. We are not in the right consciousness when we go to a sacred place. They all say the way to atone for that is to ask forgiveness from the person, from the deity, from the holy name, from the Dhamma, and then you will be forgiven. So I've discussed this question with other devotees because
Daytime job.
full time.
Yeah, full-time job.
Well, the idea might be after a while you said maybe I should just stop offending because it's like I can't just keep going in cycle. But this question is a little more difficult because if I ask Krishna, please forgive me for making an offense to your deity or your name, like he will. But sometimes we ask people to forgive us and they say no. And so the question is there a consequence if they say no? I've discussed this with some devotees and our conclusion was we did the right thing by asking for forgiveness. They did the wrong thing by not giving it. It would be better if they gave it, but we can't do any more than ask for forgiveness and ask 100 times. And so that's the right thing, so we've done the right thing. And so
Yes.
that's all we can do.
Sometimes people also ask forgiveness in a really egoistic way, like to have the higher, like they're asking forgiveness, but maybe not with the how that is really asking forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes they also have this,
Not with a heart.
yeah.
I think, yeah, that may be. But still, a devotee should be forgiving, so
Yeah.
if someone asks for forgiveness, at least we should give it.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if
But
it's-
I thought we were in general speaking, just only about devotees.
or anybody.
Yeah.
But at least for us, yeah. We somebody says, please forgive me. The right thing to do is say,
Yes.
the right thing is you were not offended.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
they say, I offended you. No offense. That's the blessing we give. Because if you do something and I take offense, it hurts you.
Yeah.
So, yes. That's it. She won't let you offend you. You have to say that. What? Prasada? Mahaprasada Govinda.
Never stop dancing.
No, thank you. So give a big
Thank
applause
you.
to Gaura. I feel so much, we all in the Nitai, we all feel so much honored having you here. And be welcome anytime. This place is your place, as I told my students. This is not my place, it's the place, place here. And others, and our other parents going to stay here for a weekend, so please. Here you can, that's the garden, and the kitchen will be built in the garage. Yes, because to cool for all the pouries here and the corners here, this whole area will become oily, so there's a
You
facility.
gonna remove that?
No, it remains here. It's for the festivals, for the Deities, we cook there. Yes. So, Maharaj has some amazing books with him. Really, I would really recommend it. And that's
I got some letters.
it's not to flatter, but they're really. Hare Krishna, I'm still. The program is still going on. Take the mic.
Oh yeah.
Take the mic.
Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, okay. So I was at the point that Maharaj brought some books with him here, small, big ones. Everything is over there, and there's a lot of spiritual wisdom in it. And moreover, Maharaj has a retreat tomorrow, and what's the timing? 10 till 6 o'clock Saturday. There you still can be registered for it. If you didn't do it, you can register, and it's very recommendable. So if you can make it tomorrow and you want a really spiritual high, how you say, to when we say you want to charge yourself, lift yourself up, and to be for a few hours on the real spiritual realm, I would really recommend you to visit, because Maharajas are not often
The
here.
rest of your life.
The rest of your life even. No, they are not often here, so when they're here, try to take the maximum benefit of their stay here, okay? Thank you so much, Maharaj. Great.